Davin Wilson, Assistant Sports Information Director. Thanks for joining us on Averett 1-for-1. I'm here with head coach Danny Miller. And Danny, we're here to talk a little bit about this weekend. Obviously, the team faced some tough competition over the weekend, playing a couple of nationally ranked opponents. What did this competition help you learn about your team?
I learned that we need some work to do. I intentionally scheduled this way. I think we have a lot of potential, a lot of ability, but I wanted our players to kind of see what the next level was and what the ability of top-ranked teams in the country. When you're playing two top 5 teams in the country, you know, the talent level and the consistency and the execution, you kind of get to see what happens. And Bethany was a great opponent. I mean, all 4 of the teams were, but Bethany was receiving votes for the top 25. And so hopefully it kind of gave them an idea of what great teams do, and maybe it'll help us get there as well.
Okay, and you got a great defensive performance this weekend out of Christiana Suma. How important will she be for your team in helping slow down opponents' attacks?
Well, she did a great job last year. She came in last year and as a freshman earned the libero position, so I'm excited, and I think she's taking a step forward and getting better, and so it's definitely something that we need her passing and digging and giving us that consistency in that back row, and so hopefully she can keep that up. And I don't think she'll face tougher competition than she did this past weekend, so hopefully we'll keep that going and she'll get better.
Okay. And new players really stepped up for you this weekend as well. How impressed were you with the younger players?
Well, I think it's the reality is when you look at our team, our biggest contributors right now are a bunch of freshmen and sophomores. So we don't really have the old people, the experience. But I think we had a lot of players that stepped in and played for the first time. We had a couple of freshman setters that have contributed this year. One of them didn't play this weekend, but you know, we had a freshman outside that got some serious playing time and had a chance to do stuff. We got some sophomores that hadn't really been playing as much, and so they've really done a good job. And I'm seeing them improve and get better, and I think that's part of it is, especially when you're dealing with injuries, and we unfortunately had a few injuries. Hopefully we can keep that going and get some contribution out of it.
Okay. And how important were these games in preparing the team for the Heart of Conference play?
Well, I think you always want to schedule, you know, I think as a coach, your conference schedule is what it is. So they come and say, okay, well, here's your 15, 19, whatever your conference games are. You don't have a choice. That's what it is. And when you schedule your out of conference, I think you kind of always try to schedule in thirds. And that's always been my philosophy is, you know, there's a third that you schedule and you're going to get wins. You seriously expect you're going to be the better team, and so you got to get those wins to get confidence. And you schedule a third that may be a little above you, and that was kind of this past weekend, is to see where we stack up and see if we're that good. And then you have a third that's kind of a give and take. You know, it depends on who plays better that night. And so I think that's the way I've scheduled, and it's been a tough fall as far as if you look at our record, we're 8-7, but the competition we've played and the ability of the teams that we've played, I think going into conference play, I know we've had one conference game, but the serious part of the schedule gets kicking this week. I don't know that we could be more prepared because we won't face teams that play harder. We won't face teams that hit the ball harder or dig the ball better or block better or serve tougher, and so we won't go into conference play expecting to see something we haven't seen already. So that's kind of, hopefully that's what the preseason or the non-traditional part of the season has prepared us for, and it gets us ready.
Okay. And the combination of Hannah Shields and Sarah Smoot, very dangerous combination there. How will they affect your team as the season progresses?
Well, I think the reality is that a lot of our offense goes through those two players. We're actually messing around with our lineup a little bit. Sarah played quite a bit of right side because we've kind of been struggling to get kills over there. And that was where Jordan Pitzer kind of stepped in and took her spot on the outside, and he contributed outside. And but I think the reality is the ball's going to kind of has to go through Hannah and Sarah. You know, they're our top 2 hitters. They proved it last year as freshmen when they led the team as freshmen last year, and you kind of expect them to take a step forward and get better. And so it's to have 2 very dynamic and great hitters. It's like you want to maximize that, and so we're very dependent upon them. And I think they kind of set the tone for everything else that happens. And so we've got to make sure that we're getting them the ball and putting them in the best possible position. They've got to make sure that they're doing what they need to and step up and kind of set the tone.
Okay. And we talked a lot about in the preseason, the loss of having a 4-year setter. How have some of the other setters, the growing setters, how do you see them going, and how do you think they've been doing?
Well, it's a work in progress. Obviously, I know they get tired of me being on them and pushing them. But we have a sophomore setter in Kristen Viegelman. She missed a lot of time last year, unfortunately, due to injury. So the reality is she's basically like a freshman. And then we have 2 freshmen, Dana Reed and Keenan Marks, who are both fighting for that playing time. Excuse me. And the reality is I felt like Keenan had kind of, if you noticed, she got Rookie of the Week 2 weeks in a row and had kind of taken the position and was doing a nice job. And the ugly head of injuries in sports reared its head, and so that kind of put us at a situation where Thursday we found out last minute, that she wasn't going to be able to play, and so we kind of have to readjust and do things on the fly, and that's just part of athletics. If you've ever been around it, if you watched any sports on TV this past weekend, as everybody watched football, it's the star, whoever it was, X, Y, and Z, all of a sudden they're not playing, and what are you going to do? And so that is what it is. And so I think they all have the potential to get us where we need to go. Part of it is mentally, we just have to be tough. And the reality is when a freshman comes in and they're expected to contribute right away, is that they don't get to be a freshman. You have to step up and you have to show your leadership and make the plays when you need to make. And you can't be, oh well, they're just a freshman, it's okay. No, that's the tough part is. If you want to be the player and step on the court right away when you come in, then you got to be ready to step on the court right away. And I think they'll do well, and I think we'll get it where we need to be.
Okay, well, Danny, we appreciate you joining us on the show. And
thank you very much.
Good luck
my pleasure.
Good luck on the match tomorrow night, and thank you everybody at home for joining us for 1 for 1. And I'm Davin Wilson, and we'll see you again next time.